Hey guys, J-Man here in the Phantom Zone. A little bit different setup today. I didn't get my laptop on, so this is just my other computer. But I thought I'd kind of expand a little bit on the channel and do some wrestling stuff. And I always liked wrestling. I grew up watching it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I thought, you know what? I think the women's division doesn't get enough love, so I thought let's just do the women's division because there's so many websites out there and YouTube channels that cover wrestling. This is just going to be, our thoughts here, and we're just going to, give our opinions. We're not super duper knowledgeable on everything. We're just going to kind of have fun with it and see where it goes. We'll try to do a weekly thing. Maybe, I don't know, we'll pick a day to do it and just talk about that. But yeah, can't do it alone. So let's bring in the incredible Steven.
Hey, J-Man.
All right. So are you pumped? This is like the most random live stream slash idea. I was just like I was watching the Rumble and I'm like, oh, I really like the women's division. It's really good. It's it's all great. And then Ronda came back. I'm like, oh, I like Ronda. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's just talk about it. And I figure you and I are going to talk about it anyway.
Right.
So we're going to take a cue from everybody on Facebook and Twitter and all that, and then instead of just talking about it privately, why don't we share our 2 cents with everybody? And I thought, you know what, this might be the best way to do it. We're gonna talk about it anyway, so we may as well talk about it live. And people may be interested, they may not be, and if they're not interested, that's cool. We were going to talk about it anyway, so there's not. It doesn't matter, right? So just in case people do go back to watch this, we're not going to be super long on these. This won't be like the chill streams and all that stuff that I do. Those are going to remain for the Saturday evening kind of, where we just talk about stuff and then we invite people. So this is just going to be you and I talking. And we're going to keep it, we're going to keep it as long as it needs to be, which is to say that we're going to go through the matches and the storylines. And once we're done, we'll see where we're at, and then we might just end it right there. Or if people are interested in talking about more, then we'll kind of go from there, and we'll play it. We'll be very loose with it. But it's not going to be, like, I don't want to say dumpster fire, but it's not going to be the crazy stuff. Hey, Double C, what's going on, man? Thanks for popping in. All right, so I'm going to just do, well, Steve, you can jump in when you don't agree with me. Let's put it this way. Back in the day, I've watched wrestling since WrestleMania 2 until WrestleMania 20 or something.
Right.
And I never missed a show, a pay-per-view. Like, I never missed anything. I would get Wrestling Magazine, right? I got the toys. The toys are actually those are the oh God, I forgot I have some of the rubber ones, which I know you do, which we'll get to you in a second. Oh God, what were the smaller ones called? Damn it, I've
oh yeah, and you put them on your thumb.
No, not the thumb ones. No, they're just like little figures, and I can't.
Oh yeah.
I need Sean here to tell me I've completely drawn a blank. I'll remember it later. So I collected those. Big Boss Man was like my first one that I got, but from WrestleMania 2 until 20 something, I never missed anything. And the women's matches were called the bathroom matches. Let's not pretend, right? It was I gotta use, because these pay-per-views were 3 to 4 hours, and as soon as the women would come on, like, oh, I gotta go take a piss. And I look, I'm not taking anything away from those women, especially the older school ones who really fought and tried and trained, and they're professional athletes. They were doing the best they can to entertain. But the WWF at the time, now WWE, the WWE at the time was not really giving them storylines that were compelling. The characters were very generic. It didn't really go anywhere. Then there was WOW, right? Women of Wrestling and all that stuff. And I actually thought that was a lot better because it was all just women and they gave them characters and storylines. And it was so crazy that I even wrote to some of the wrestlers, and I even got autographs back and they wrote me little things. It was pretty cool. But WWE never treated it well. Then it came to a point where there was a lot of female talent and it was very mixed. 50% of them were like legitimate female athletes who wanted to do good and entertain the crowd. And then 50% of them were just, really attractive women that were doing like bra and panty matches and stupid shit like that. And now you might think that, I'm a guy and, Steve, you're a guy. We're both straight guys. And yeah, we're all horny for this and we're going to watch all this. But it sucked anyways. And it's like, sure, they were attractive girls. Like, we're not going to say they're not attractive. That's stupid. But what was the point of like, the problem is that you're spending time now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if this is a 4-hour pay-per-view, I don't want to see half an hour of bullshit, right? So some of the women were good, right? Like even when you have like Lita, like who we'll talk about, Trish started
Victoria,
to train,
Molly.
Right? And Molly Holly was awesome, man. And she got nailed on the Rumble. We'll talk about that. So you had 50% of the women were really good. Like they were trying to fight and stuff, but then 50% of them were like just there for TNA.
The Stacy Keeblers, the Tori Wilsons, people
right?
Like
and Stacy Keibler is like super attractive, right? But like really, like so you're left with not knowing what to do. And again, there's no coherent storylines. Nobody cares who's a heel, like heel, baby face. Like nobody cares. It's like whatever. Then I got out of wrestling. Pretty much. Well, I would say attitude after. And then all of a sudden, this whole slew of women came in, and I kind of missed I just missed that entire diva.
I was there, but yeah.
You were there. Yeah, we'll get to, So I missed all of that. And then I kind of got back in with Ronda because I like UFC. And again, even with UFC, I'm more interested in the female matches. Look, and this is the generic answer that a lot of people have, which is, like Gina Carano, right? Who I don't think she was actually in UFC, but she was an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
I like Gina. I saw her in American Gladiators and stuff like that. And then when Ronda came in, and this is a very generic thing, all of a sudden Ronda came in and now you're excited about UFC. That's me. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Ronda Rousey came in. I thought she was awesome. I wasn't like super fan of her doing some of the acting roles because I was just like, what was the point of that? But now I'm okay. I'm okay with it now. I've gone, I'm like fine with it. But her matches were great. She put the women's fights on the map big time. Like UFC prior to that, it's like even Dana White was like, I'm not having women's matches. It's bullshit. So Ronda changed that attitude. Gina was there. Cyborg was there. Like there's a lot of other people that contributed. Ronda, I think, was the first to really make it big for UFC. Anyways, so I've seen all her matches. Then she lost. Holly Holm, beat her up. And we're not going to get into that. That's a whole thing that someone can discuss with me personally if they really want, if they care. But then Ronda was in WWE. I thought, this will be really good. And this is where I kind of got into it. You got what's her name, Becky and Charlotte Flair. Ric Flair is one of my all-time faves. So Charlotte Flair really, is awesome. Brought that back in. And I've got some people on our screen here below on our backdrop. Some of the other women who are in the now. But anyways, I got really excited for that. So that's sort of my entire wrestling background very quickly. WrestleMania, like for sure. And I've seen every WrestleMania, and I own every WrestleMania on Blu-ray or DVD. I don't know when they switched to Blu-ray, but when they switched to Blu-ray, I switched and I have all of those. So I never missed a WrestleMania ever. But me watching every show, every pay-per-view, every event, every main event, all these things, that was from WrestleMania 2 to 20 something or so. And then I know for the early 20s, we would get together just for the WrestleManias, and Sean would host that. And then at some point, even that stopped. And then we were just kind of like, at least I was done. So when did you start wrestling in general? Would you say WrestleMania 1 or 2? We're the same age. So
it was one. I was there from the beginning. 85. The cartoon was out, right? Like the cartoon
Rock and Wrestling.
I watched that. That's how I found out about the Fabulous Moolah. Never heard of her before.
Yep.
That cartoon. And I think Wendy Richter fought in the first WrestleMania against Leilani Kai.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought it was a great wrestler, and I don't know why
Because they
no
didn't
one
push
talks
it. Well,
about her now.
Double C saying Vince McMahon wasn't right. He wasn't
Yeah.
pushing. Right.
Yeah.
I love Stephanie McMahon. I like, firstly, I thought she was really attractive, but I thought she was a great character. Stephanie pushed the women's. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So basically WrestleMania 1, now, do you remember watching every episode, like the Saturday afternoon matches and shit like that?
I never miss it. Like, if I acted up, the way my parents punished me was they said you couldn't watch Saturday night's main event, or you couldn't watch.
Shit. Oh
you
no,
couldn't watch,
you're like, damn it, I can't.
Yeah, I did. My mother's like, it was like someone shot your dog. If I told you that. And the women were not like, the women around there were like Miss Elizabeth. They were valets. And even if you go outside of WWE, Missy Hyatt was a very famous one. She was a valet. Woman was a valet, right?
Woman, yeah.
Kimberly with the Diamond Dolls, like, the DDP's wife. She was a valet. They were all valets. Like, there were very few wrestlers. I think ECW started a lot of it with Daphne and those sort of ones who could fight a little bit. But with WWE, it took so long. They wasted Sensational Sherry because she was a fantastic wrestler. And she was just a valet for Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Right?
I love when she was with Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels,
and she hit, I can't remember who she hit. She hit somebody with the purse, and the guy literally just fell like a tree.
Yeah.
And then like Gorilla Monsoon's like, oh my God, that purse was loaded. And then Bobby Heenan's like, what are you talking about? It was just her makeup. And so it's like, literally the guy's like knocked out and literally just fell. It's like, okay.
It was just, she was fantastic, and she always ended up undressed no matter what was going on. But she was a fantastic wrestler. I remember watching her before she came to WWE under her name, Sherry Martel. She was fantastic. I think it was AWA or NWA, one of those two. I watched her. So I watched everything. I watched Stampede Wrestling. Oh, wow. I watched, when I was on vacation in Florida, I watched the Florida Wrestling, which at that point had Lex Luger as their champion. I watched NWA. I watched AWA. I watched Nick Bockwinkel. I watched everything. I read all the magazines from like back in the day. These guys like Chris Adams and Gino Fernandez. But the women, unless your name was like Missy Hyatt, who was Eddie Gilbert's valet and wife, they didn't talk about you. It was all the men. And it continued that way. Miss Elizabeth valet, Sensational Sherry, she's awesome wrestling. You get Wendy Richter, you get Rock and Robin, you get the Jumping Blossoms, who was the Japanese tag team. But they were few and far between, right? And then I think it really started with Trish, like Lita, like they were like, oh, these people, but they still had to have the stupidity, right? You still had the cat. And what people don't realize is that with wrestling, people watch wrestling over UFC because actual fighting, which is UFC, is ugly. People don't really there's no clean punches. The other person's covering up or blocking. WWE, you can literally see them standing there waiting for the spot, waiting there for the strike, waiting there for the drop kick or whatever. So it needs to be clean. And it needs to be well choreographed. And if the performers aren't skilled, it looks like shit. And that was the problem.
They're performers. Like,
exactly.
These are athletes who are doing a play. It's like theater.
Yep.
So you need Scary Sherry. Yeah. I love Scary Sherry, man. He's great. No, but like they're performers. Like these wrestlers, like they keep saying, well, wrestling's fake and all that. Well, what do you mean it's fake? The Dark Knight's fake. It's not real. That's not. It's a movie. It's like theater is fake. Hamlet. We're watching Hamlet on the theater. It's fake, right? Like, it's like, yeah, but it's a performance. So you have to get into the characters, the story, and then it builds up. And the women's division didn't have that. You'd have a women's match just to have a women's match. But you didn't care about the outcome. Like to your saying, okay, Wendy Richter, I knew her. I'm like, oh, I guess she'll just win. And like, right, like.
But there was no one else to challenge her. That was the thing.
And it didn't matter. Like when Hulk Hogan was fighting in WrestleMania, everyone talks about WrestleMania 3. Yeah, but when Hulk Hogan was fighting WrestleMania 3, I'm like, holy shit, the Giants against him.
He's not beating him.
Like, what is happening? What is going to happen here? So we know that it's scripted as to who wins, but I don't know the script. So
No.
to me, it's like I'm watching a theater play, like or a movie. And I'm like, wow. And this is an ongoing movie, right? It's an ongoing drama. You tune in every week, and we never tune in every week to see what the women were up to, right? It was,
never.
And you have a lot more experience than I do because you're watching all these other. I'm only watching WWF at the time, not even WCW. I remember thinking that was the inferior wrestling.
Yeah.
I never got into that. But okay, so continue
so
on. So
like, no, it's good. So like, as a guy who likes women, I started to notice women because Trish Stratus was hot, Stacey Keebler was hot, but I still appreciated like Trish more than any of them because she could fight. Lita I appreciate more than anyone because she could fight. Molly because she could fight. Victoria because she could fight. Ivory because she could fight. Jacqueline because she could fight. Like all these characters, these women could put on great matches, and I loved WoW. I had a website up for
Becky the Farmer's Daughter. Oh no, was Becky the.
Mine was Ice Cold. I loved
Ice
her.
Cold. Yeah.
I loved her, but Becky was great. You know, I remember Becky pinned the big girl. I don't remember her name. She was like a grunge character.
Yeah.
And it was like people, you know, it was like someone, you know, we won, you know, they won the lottery and the free, like everyone exploded. No one expected that.
And some of those matches were horse shit too because they were just there to be pretty, right?
Mostly. I liked Ice Cold because she could fight a little bit, and I generally liked the ladies who can fight. And then you got the Divas era, which is what Double C was talking about, which I call the Cupcake era because none of them could fight. You got the Bellas, Maurice. You know, Maurice was a champion while she was a great heel, but as a wrestler, the Bellas I never really looked at as great wrestlers. No one from the Diva era I looked at. With the butterfly belt, I never looked. Like Alicia Fox is a champion. Alicia Fox was a model. She had long legs, but she, you know, putting on a great show, she couldn't put on a 30-minute. And then what I started to notice, because I was in and out, there's times I would get annoyed because it was just the same old. But what I started to notice was NXT had the women, and that was Triple H. And they were running the women as main event. So I remember watching a 60-minute Iron Man match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, where literally they brought bouquets of flowers out to them afterwards, and they were like crying. It was like such an achievement. But this is a testimony to the talent of those women. And then you saw the women's revolution, which started with Paige, who was a legit.
Paige is great.
And before then, all they had was AJ Lee. AJ Lee ran the show. They had Tamina around and that, but like Paige coming in started to turn the tide. And then they brought up Sasha, Charlotte, Becky, all the veterans. Bayley came up.
She's pretty good.
Yeah.
Rhea Ripley is like kick ass.
She's amazing. They brought in Nia Jax.
He's saying it's a 30-minute. Was it?
Oh, 30 minutes. Sorry.
30 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
It's a 30-minute Iron Man match, but
that's still pretty damn good.
That's a 30-minute women's match is unheard of.
Right.
How much would they get at WrestleMania? 10 at most.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
But like that match was crazy, and I watched it. I'm like, these women are so talented. I can't believe it. You still had like Michelle McCool was still around. Way Cool. I liked that team. They went a little too far. Mickie James was good. She was at the tail end of Trish's career. AJ was good. She did the equivalent of her husband's pipe bomb, right? Like CM Punk did the infamous pipe bomb promo, and then she came out afterwards and she leveled the Bellas. She leveled them, and I was like, you know, she basically said, "You can't wear my Chuck Taylors," and that. And I was like, well, you know, AJ Lee was super talented. It's too bad that she got fed up and left. There was another one too. Maybe the chat knows. She was an Asian Canadian one, and she was awesome. But WWE never used her properly. She was there twice, and she went to TNA and she was knockout champion like a bunch of times, and she was incredible. One of you guys in chat might know, but she was great. Natalya was always around. She was always solid, but she comes from Jim Neidhart. Like she comes from a family.
Right. She's one of the Hart people.
right? But all these women started to come up, and when they got their first Royal Rumble, it was like, finally, like, the women are going to get a Royal Rumble. I think they got an Elimination Chamber match. Like,
yeah. So this to me, this is like, now what all this stuff that you're saying, this was me like kind of like stepping back and only watching the Manias, right? I always liked Royal Rumble. That was always my second favorite, or even sometimes my favorite. It's kind of like Rumble and Mania are like really the two. I like Survivor Series as well, but like Rumble and Mania were kind of
the formula, right?
Right.
They got away from the elimination match formula, which I always liked.
Which is why I like that. Yeah. So Rumble and thing I always liked. So when this Rumble happened 2022, just this past weekend, this is me properly sitting down to properly actually now watch, right? And I was literally thinking, is there even 30 female competitors that are good enough to even be in this thing? And there kind of were, but they also had a few, legends pop up who you knew weren't good. Like, we know that legends, right? We knew that, Molly's not going to win or whatever, right? So they had a few people who were like, oh yeah, they got this person back. Well, she ain't going to win, right? But in defense of that, that's the same with the male Royal Rumbles. You can take the male generally. You go back to the first Royal Rumble ever, and I think I've seen, let's say, 70% of every Royal Rumble there was or something. Like there, the 10. Like if you said, okay, out of the 30 men or whatever, pick your 10, right? And those are the ones that are Gail Kim. Yes, I remember Gail Kim.
Gail Kim, yes, Double C. You're right. Yes. Gail Kim was absolutely ruined. Melina is a legend, yes.
Yeah.
Melina is a legend.
I remember
I'll tell you who I don't think are legends when we start talking about the Rumble.
Okay, yeah. So well, anyways, but even with Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble, there's 10. You're like, okay, it's gonna be one of these 10. Yeah. And then besides that, you're also like, not only is it one of these 10, it's probably one of these 5.
Right.
How often were you wrong? I don't think, like, if I had to pick the 10 that one of them's gonna win, I've got 100% accuracy on that.
Right.
Based on that, I would always pick, like, let's say 5. It's like, well, it's probably going to be either Flair or Savage or Sid, or you know what I mean? And it was one of those, right? Yeah. And it was Flair, and you're like, yep, I knew it, right? Like right. How often were you completely wrong out of your top 5 choices? Like not very
rarely. But what the WWE has done now is a lot of the time, because if you look at this past Rumble, the 2 winners were not named as entrants, right? Like, that's now what they're doing, is they're not naming all the entrants. And that's part of the fun about the Rumble. If you remember, Greymalkin was talking about, oh, Moxley's coming back. And I'm like, Moxley's never coming back. He burned a WWE on his way. He said, no, it's rumored. The great thing about the Rumble is you get to see guys who've been away for a while, like performers who've been away for a while, and right. It's guessing who's going to appear. The
so
men,
did we know? Oh yeah, sorry, continue.
Like the men was like super light this year, but the women was super heavy on like people who are not mainstream roster, main roster, like full-time roster, being in the Rumble. I kept counting them, like, that person's not here anymore. That person's not here anymore.
So this is where this is why it's so important to have you be on here with me. So it's just the 2 of us, because I don't know a lot of this stuff. So I was making my little notes or whatever as I was watching the Rumble too. And it's like, okay, well, I guess Lita is now coming back for one more run.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Raw, last night's Raw. But and then I'm thinking, I'm like, hey, wait, this person is still around? And I'm like, no, this can't, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah. I mean, I knew Molly Holly wasn't, I'm like, Molly Holly, I'm like, this is crazy. And then Nikki ASH, like, just like basically nailed the crap out of her on the side there. I'm like, okay, so Molly was literally put there because she was a superhero before, and they need to push Nikki as a heel. So they're going to give her heat or whatever, and, beat up Molly. Yeah. And it's like, yay, so we beat her up. So it's like stuff like that. It's like, okay, I get. And they didn't want her to have to beat up someone who's a legit contender.
Right.
to win. So I'm not, I'm not that out of it that I can't see what's going on. I'm out of it because I haven't watched anything except for the matches. And the thing is, because I'm so out of it, I'm not even like I basically dead stopped. Like I stopped reading mags, I stopped reading the websites, like complete dead. Like I don't know whatever WrestleMania that was. I think I watched up to 21, 22. And then after that, it's like it was almost like the next day I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't remember which WrestleMania it was. And then we only watched the Manias. And I remember I would make up a sheet and we would do like a little bit of a betting poll to see who would win. And I would guess pretty good, even not even knowing the storylines. And I started to think like, is this just getting predictable now to the point where I think the last one we watched was when did we watch Taker lose?
I wasn't there for that one. I couldn't make it for some reason, but you guys saw it. And
that was the last one. Taker's streak broke our getting together streak, basically, because we're just like, what, he lost? And he lost to Brock, right?
Brock beat him, and I think it was in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, and they lost it there at the Superdome. And I personally, they kept saying who's going to break the streak, and my thing was, do you really need to? Like, is there a need to break the streak? Do you have to give it to Brock? Brock's already gotten so much.
Yeah, like just retire and be like, I'm going to retire. Whatever, 20 matches or 21 or whatever, undefeated, and that's it.
Well, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but Taker was one of those guys. Yeah, that was crazy. Double C. I'm going to talk about that in a sec, but like. Taker was one of those guys who probably overstayed a little bit too long. He was in a match against Goldberg at Crown Jewel, and it was a terrible match. Goldberg was never a great guy. He can't carry someone in the ring, and Taker used to be that guy, but he was too beaten up at the end, man. He had a terrible match with Goldberg, which is why he came back and why they chose probably to do the AJ Styles match the way they did. But like if you think about the infamous Foley Taker Hell in the Cell match, like Taker doesn't get enough credit for how much he like gave Mankind time to like recover. So
hey, Sean. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So this is Decepticon is Sean, guys. So for you guys so you know what we're talking about. Okay, we're see. I knew we were gonna get sidetracked to the men. It's just inevitable, and I'm trying. Okay,
we're trying to focus on the ladies.
We're trying to. Okay, so my point was gonna be that because I'm not following this stuff. And I'm a big time fan of Ronda Rousey, and I don't know if people like her or not. I used to be in the know. Like because I always, just like my movies and my comics, I'm gonna like stuff that people don't like, and I don't care. I love Wonder Woman 84. I don't care if people hate it or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. So that's how it used to be with wrestling. But at that time I knew everyone hated Stephanie McMahon, but I loved Stephanie McMahon. Steve, you can back me up. Man, I love Stephanie. I thought she was great. She was hilarious. Her voice was funny. She's like, hey, it's like, oh, she's so whiny. Our buddy Sean, not Sean, who's on our channel. But my other buddy Sean hated her. He's like, how can you like her? She's so irritating. I was like, man, she's great. And I knew everyone hated her. So I don't know if people like Ronda, or is this this is another UFC person trying to come in and take over. So I wasn't sure what people's reactions were to her. And she was using Roddy Piper's kind of motif or whatever. So I don't know if that was a source of tension for people.
She became a heel in her first run, but she became a heel much the same way as like Roman Reigns became a heel, or Batista became a heel when he came back. In the fans wanted Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is a boss. She's a badass.
She's awesome.
And they didn't want to see Ronda Rousey pushed as a top babyface. They wanted Becky Lynch, so they started to boo Ronda Rousey because they wanted Becky Lynch put in there. Again, if the fans are not being heard, they will turn on who you're trying to push, and that's what happened with Ronda. And Ronda actually didn't know how to react because I don't think she was used to being booed. I think she was used to being beloved.
Right.
So she turned heel, and it was a little bit awkward from what I remember. And then she left because she wanted to start a family or something. I think and it was always open that she was going to come back, but the question was when.
Okay, so double C, good. I love Ronda. I've got her little Funko Pop thingy, and I've got a figure of her. I've seen all her UFC matches. I've seen all her WWE. Sorry, man, that's gonna happen a lot. That's how much I've been out of it. I've seen all her WWE matches. I've seen all her interviews, like on various talk shows. The whole thing with her and her kind of downfall. It's a whole in the UFC. I mean, it's a whole thing. We don't need to get into it here. She wasn't in the shorts. Yeah. Well, she's.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed there's photos of her like breastfeeding, like the night of the Royal Rumble. So I mean, she's like her and her husband. I watch her. I'm subscribed and I follow her on Twitter and all that. So I've seen some of her videos with her and her husband on their little farm area doing their stuff. But she is like, she's back now. So was it known that she was coming back? Like, did everyone, because when I was younger, I know there was that certain time where I didn't know. And then at some point it transitioned to, oh yeah, I know who's coming back tonight. Right. So now with the age of computer, as the FUBAR guys would say in their show, age of computer, in the age of computer, do we know, like, was everyone like, oh yeah, Ronda's showing up tonight? We know that.
It was speculated, right? Because the Royal Rumble has become one of those events where there's rampant videos and stuff about who we think is going to reappear at the Rumble.
Right.
And Ronda Rousey was one of them.
Okay. Okay.
So I think we had a good idea that she would be.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get into the Rumble. I don't know a lot of these people, so I was trying to take notes and trying to remember who they all were. I didn't even realize that there was going to even be 30 females. I got the WWE app, so I've been going through the app as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to see everybody and marking down what's going on, because I'm so out of it. But I mean, Bianca Belair seemed like she was doing pretty good, so looks like she's got to be one of the top ones. She's pretty solid. Her hair, I don't know how she wrestles with that hair. Like, I would be so scared that gets caught in something or whatever.
It's used as a story, as a device during the match. Either she's whipping someone with it, or someone's got a hold of it, or stepping on it. She is one of the most phenomenal athletes, period, ever. Is it a legitimacy thing?
I don't know, Sean. I think so. Like,
yes and no. Part of it was Becky, and part of it was, but Brock Lesnar's beloved, and he started, and then he went to UFC, and then he came back. I think whenever they have had UFC guys, and they have had like Cain Velasquez versus Brock Lesnar, I don't think they've been hated or anything. I think it was just simply the case of, much like with the man Daniel Bryan, people wanted Becky Lynch. They wanted the man. They didn't want Ronda Rousey. Mm-hmm. And Ronda Rousey isn't as good a person on the mic as Becky Lynch.
Yeah, so there was some room.
Yeah,
Becky Lynch. Oh man, I don't know who I like better, Ronda, or like I want to be loyal to Ronda, but Becky Lynch to me is like a superstar. And firstly, she's very funny.
Yeah.
And I rewatched her. I watched her match twice with Doudrop. And I'm just watching for her facial reactions. I think she's absolutely amazing. I need to meet Becky Lynch. That would be my first top meeting, because she's so funny, and her face and her reactions to stuff during that match is hilarious. And even on Raw when she's talking, and then people come out, I was like, when Lita came out, she's like, oh, that was unfair. She's like, yeah, that was unfair. What are you talking about?
Well, it's like, I love how she came out to Ronda and she's like, oh, you're using my government name. And I love it's the fact that it's her accent too. It's like you're using my government name. Becky Lynch is a there's a reason she was so popular. I think she's gotten over as a heel, which is testament because she's so beloved.
Yeah. She's not even a heel to me. I don't care what she does. Like she's transcended into she is always the best. I don't care what she does. Like she could literally go and like beat up children in the audience. I'd be like, yeah, beat them up. She's like ascended to the level. Like there's certain wrestlers that I love. It's like Ric Flair. Like I don't care what Ric Flair does, he's right.
Well, I mean, Ric Flair undressing in the ring is just like preposterous. And then he like handcuffed himself to the top rope. And I remember through the entire promo, and Eric, God, I forgot his last name. The guy who was running WCW at the time.
Eric Bischoff?
Eric Bischoff. He's literally staying there like, what is this like whack job going to do next? And I'm just like, he's strutting around the ring in his red underwear, handcuffed to the rope. And I'm like,
this is crazy.
How can this not be the best thing ever? But getting back to the original thing, Bianca Belair is like seriously an awesome athlete.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She lifted a 300-pound dude onto her shoulders and carried him around the ring. Wow. She is beyond, like you saw, she does the springboard.
Yep.
Like it's ridiculous. Like, and her husband is one of the Street Profits, and he's super acrobatic. I'm like, how do these two have sex? Like, it must be crazy.
Whoa.
It must be like hanging off the ceiling or something.
So, okay. So did you like the Royal Rumble match itself? Like, I guess really, let's talk about the Rumble. So there was really only the Doudrop Becky match and the Rumble itself. I hate mixed tag matches.
Yeah.
That's the new bathroom match. So
it wasn't even a match from what I understand.
It's bullshit.
Like Maurice and The Miz are not in, like Beth Phoenix is one of the greatest female wrestlers ever. She was known as a Glamazon for a reason.
Yeah, Glamazon.
And like Edge is one of the best male. Like awesome. It's like I didn't even know why they wasted their time with that one, other than the fact they got the team up.
Right. So we're not talking about that because that was a bullshit. That's a bullshit match. Okay, so for the Rumble stuff, did you like the Rumble?
I thought there was too many non-roster people in the Rumble. It's okay to have 3 to 4, but when you start to get up to like, I think there was like 6 or 7, it started to get a little bit much. And I was disappointed that we didn't see more NXT women there, because usually they showcase NXT wrestlers in the Rumble match, and we didn't get any of that.
Like I'm going through, so I've got this is the official app.
Right.
Maurice is one of the best. I'm going through the app here and I'm trying to see, like, I don't even know if there would have been 30 current legitimate people. Like, is there even 30? I mean, I guess there would be if I count all of these up.
Well, there was people missing, like Asuka. Obviously, I know she had surgery, but I think she's well again and she can do. Xia Li, who's been around a couple of times, who they keep teasing her and then she shows up and then she hasn't had a match yet. I don't know if they're like still training her or what the hell the story is with that, but she wasn't
Alexa
there.
Bliss is still in her.
Alexa Bliss is still in her like recovery storyline,
which we'll get to.
I'm trying, like Bailey's injured. Can't do anything about that.
I don't like the way they say Asuka. Like to me, it's Asuka, but that's because I'm
Asuka. Yeah,
I know they say Asuka, but that's wrong. I don't think that's the way, because I mean, Asuka, it's the same. It's like the same spelling of this character who I have like a statue of everything from Evangelion, and I'm ordering a shirt of hers. Like after this live stream, I've got the shirt in my cart ready to order of the Evangelion character, not of. But anyways, Asuka. Yes, she's not. So she was noticeably not there.
And they also did something weird. Like Sasha Banks started off. She came out, I think, like Wonder Woman, right? She was almost Wonder Woman in her costume.
Yeah. No. Oh, wait. Who came out first?
Sasha was number 1.
Sasha Banks. She was basically Sailor Moon or whatever.
Sailor Moon. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a Sailor Moon-ish style kind of a thing. So see,
she came out. She had the things on top. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sailor Moon. And then I mean, I knew that was going to be a problem. Those got beat up pretty fast.
Yeah, they didn't last. But generally when you have like a true superstar like Sasha Banks start off first, they last a while.
Yeah.
The one thing is she's coming back from an injury, so they may. Oh, there you go. They may wanted to have protected her because the problem with Sasha Banks is she's injured a lot.
Okay.
That's why they've cut runs with her short or whatnot. But I mean, Melina came out and fine. Yeah, I agree with Chillmonger. She is an awesome. She was one of the best when there wasn't a lot there. You saw how acrobatic she is when she does the splits to get into the ring. She was Eminem.
Yeah, I like that.
She was awesome. But then like Summer Rae, when Summer Rae came out, there was no pop. There was nothing. Right. It was like crickets. And then the problem too is that they kept trying to push storylines that everyone forgot. So like when Mickie James got in there, she went after Michelle McCool, right? They were rivals, but like who remembers that? They mentioned like when Summer Rae went in there, I think she literally said "F you" when she was coming down to the ring. She went after Natalya and they're like, they have a history, but I'm like, how many people remember this?
Yeah, I didn't know it because I literally didn't know. And
well, this is when
I probably wouldn't have remembered even if I did know. No, right? That's the thing.
No, because Summer Rae was never a great wrestler. Like Kelly came out. I'm like, okay,
right.
She was never a great wrestler. Like, and they kept coming. Alicia Fox. I'm like, again, very beautiful woman, but not a great wrestler in my opinion. She was, and then the Bellas came out.
Right.
Sorry, one sec.
Yeah, so I know they had a lot of people coming in that you're kind of like, well, who is this person? They're not involved in any current storylines. They're just there just to get thrown out later on. And like for me, it's like the big ones are the name people that we all know. It's like, okay, Charlotte's going to be important. Rhea Ripley's going to be important.
Yeah.
You could start to already, even though I have very limited knowledge of these female competitors. Even with my limited knowledge, I'm like, okay, I know this person ain't gonna win.
Yeah,
like, no chance in hell, right?
Like the true people who I heard may win before Ronda was mentioned was Bianca Belair was there, Sasha Banks, outside possibility at maybe a Liv Morgan who they've been trying to push.
Yep.
And she left in a weird way too, like the Bellas eliminated her, and I'm kind of like, she has nothing with the Bellas. Why? Like they brought in Sarah Logan, who was on the Riot Squad. Her Ruby Riot was an awesome character, and they got rid of her. But these two were with her, and I don't know why they had the Bellas eliminate them both. Like there's no like Liv Morgan gets nothing from that happening. So I was kind of weird to me, some of the choices about the positioning of the people. And I heard like Vince McMahon is not in a good way right now. His mom is ill or something. I have no idea. But now is again, and they've been saying this for years now is the time to sort of say, is it time that Vince steps aside? And there's been rumors WWE is going to be for sale and etc. But I'm like, I don't think you have to sell them. I think you need to get Vince in a lesser role, and I think you need to have other people take over, be it Triple H and Stephanie or whoever you want to do. But it was just sort of weird, their choices.
She died? She
died. Okay. So
she died, yeah. See, I'm completely out of the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
She died, eh? So like Vince, I mean, like, do you hand it over? I guess, I mean, well, we won't get into that, but like, yeah, it's like do you hand it over to Stephanie then and Triple H or whatever?
I think look at the success of NXT, and that was Triple H's baby. Right. I know they rebooted it, but for years NXT was propping up SmackDown and Raw. I don't know. I think I was just weirded out by a lot of the choices in there. Like Ronda came in at 28th, and then like 29th was Shotzi. I'm like, okay, but she's not going to win. 20 and 30th was Shayna Baszler. I'm like, probably not winning. Her time is sort of like they're not pushing her. It was just
to me it was like before Ronda, I was thinking there's going to be like Charlotte might do it, but she's already a champion. So I don't know. Are they going to do something with that? Are they going to do something with Rhea Ripley? I was really thinking Rhea Ripley was probably going to win. I don't know why I was thinking that. Like, this is me not knowing anything that's going on. Like, I knew Nikki ain't going to win or whatever, right? And then I know that they're pushing Naomi versus Sonya Deville. So I was like, well, if they're pushing that, then they're not going to have one of them win, because then that's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So I this is the way I'm thinking while watching, and this was with me with my limited knowledge. But then I started to think, I'm like, well, which one of these people can go? Because basically you can pick, your choices would be Becky or Charlotte at the time, right?
Right.
So if Charlotte wins, she has to pick Becky, but that's boring. So I was like thinking, well, Charlotte might not win because she's already the SmackDown champion. So what would be the point? Becky's not in it. And I'm like, well, who's going to, I don't know. So I really thought Rhea Ripley would probably, she's like a monster, man. She's awesome. She's actually really awesome. But yeah, so that, and then Ronda came in. I'm like, oh, I guess Ronda's going to win. And it was so funny too, because I texted you saying, holy shit, Ronda's back. And you're like, oh, and she won. And the thing is like, while I was texting you, I was thinking like, cause I hadn't seen it. So you spoiled Ronda winning for me.
Damn.
But you didn't spoil it, because I'm like, oh, she's going to obviously win this now, because why even have her come in if she's not going to win? And then you're like, right. If she wins, I'm like, there you go. So like, at that point in time, I'm like, is that even a spoiler at this point? Like, Ronda entering just solidified her winning, right? And they saved it for like the last two, so she can come in, beat up a few. Now, Charlotte took out quite a few. Actually, she took out quite a few. But like, Ronda comes in, okay, here we go. She's the one. There's always like that time in the Rumble where you're like, I don't know, like an hour in or 45 minutes in or whatever the time is, where you're like, okay, there's just too many random people in here now. We have to get them out of here. So then a couple people come in and just eliminate 2 or 3 really quickly just to kind of pare it down.
Yeah, there's some who were hanging around, and I think Ronda needed to come in to remove people, and she did. She eliminated a ton of people. Like, I was just baffled by some of the choices. I was just baffled. I was glad that Mickie James lasted as long as she did, because one of the worst things that would have happened is if here comes out the Impact champion from TNA, she gets in the ring and they just eliminate her. Again, WWE saying like, we're the superior product. So I'm glad that she lasted as long as she did, and eliminated some people and stuff. I think she eliminated Michelle McCool, which was good, because that storyline ended with a very rotten taste in my mouth. So glad she got her revenge. But I honestly thought it would be, without knowing Ronda was in it, I thought it'd be Bianca Belair. Like, she's just a beast, and the fans adore her. But she won last year, so it's kind of like,
right, yeah.
She's fought Becky. The only thing is, I don't know if she's fought Charlotte yet. I don't think she's had a program with her, so I'm like, maybe. But Ronda's the choice now that Ronda's was in it, that she was the obvious choice, because her last match was a triple threat match between Becky and Charlotte at WrestleMania, whatever.
Right.
And now she's sitting there, and you can see on Raw, she came out and she's like, I have history of both these women. Which one do I go after?
Right. So do you think that we'll talk about Raw, and then I'll ask your opinion on that. Okay, so the other match was Becky, Big Time Bex, which is what I like calling her now. I like Big Time Bex.
The man?
Big Time Bex. Yeah, the man is funny too. Versus Doudrop. I had researched a little bit. I went back because I really like Becky a lot. I went back and watched some of her stuff with Doudrop just so I'm kind of acquainted. And I'm literally sitting there. I'm like, there is 0 chance of Doudrop winning. Like right? It's like Becky held the title for so long. This is just one of these things where it's like there is 0% chance.
Yeah.
That Doudrop is going to win. Like, is there anyone alive that thought Doudrop was going to beat Becky? Like, there's just no way. The match itself, anytime you have a larger person, it's always tough. Doudrop doesn't seem too bad. Like, she can do some pretty good, she's doing some moves and stuff. So it wasn't too clunky. Like, sometimes when there's like, like Andre the Giant, man, look, I love Andre the Giant. He's the best. but his matches are whatever Andre decides to do happens, because you actually can't actually knock that guy down.
No.
Like, you actually can't. So he either allows you, and then if he allows you, it's gonna look bad.
Yeah.
Every Andre match ever, you're just like, oh, this is not looking like, you're like, I know Andre, you can't suspend your disbelief. It's like, Andre the Giant can literally crush your head. Like, you can't win, right? Like, this is why they never made him a champion, right? Remember, but I don't want to talk about the men. But dude, I'm not saying Doudrop's the Andre the Giant, obviously, but it's like, sometimes these larger people do have tougher roles to play. Like, can Becky even cover Doudrop with it? Like, it seems like it's like, yeah, okay, I'll just throw you off. So it's always a little bit weird, but I knew she was gonna win, and the match was all right.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, Doudrop is a talented performer. She's not a very good, like, I don't know what her character is. She originally came out and she was Eva Marie's muscle. So Eva Marie would come out, she wouldn't do anything because Eva Marie sucked.
Right.
And then Doudrop would wrestle for her, and then Eva Marie would take the credit.
Yeah. And she drew like shit to make fun of her weight and all that. And they sort of played that angle that Doudrop's this poor person who's being picked on or whatever.
Yeah, she became the dupe. And then she realized she was the dupe. And then she destroyed Eva Marie in a couple of, they're not even matches because Eva Marie can't wrestle.
Right.
And then they tried to make her a face for a while. And she came out and she did like the spirit fingers thing to the crowd and all that and go down. And I'm like, she wasn't connecting. Right. So then she got mad at Bianca Belair. She got jealous of her because she wanted to be in the Survivor Series, and she the Raw team, or whichever one. It was Raw team, I think. And she wasn't in it, and she attacked Bianca Belair. And I'm like, well, here's an interesting match because Bianca Belair's like strong as hell.
Right.
And here's this large woman. And she picked up Doudrop and gave her a friggin' KOD. Nice. And I'm like, this is sick. This is great, right? But Doudrop has no character. She's like, she has this Scottish accent, and you can sometimes barely understand her because it's so thick sometimes.
My former boss, who I worked for 5 years, had a super thick Scottish accent. I'm okay with it now.
You're good with it. Well, she just like, I don't really know what her character is or anything. Like, she's just large woman. Like, that's all I know. And she can do the cannonball in the ring and stuff like that. And, that's cool. But like, Becky Lynch is a whole new, like, she's on a different planet. She's up there. Like, it's her and Charlotte and Sasha, Bailey when she's available, maybe Asuka, Ronda, like the superstars, Bianca Belair. Like,
she's like a superstar,
right, and like, she's probably the superstar of the superstars.
Yeah,
and Doudrop is a talented performer who needs a lot of work on character. She's not winning.
Yeah, I don't know what you could do with her. Like, it seems like Bianca is the EST.
Yeah, she is EST. She is the fastest, the strongest.
So I mean, she is awesome. I should have got her figure. I have a Ronda figure, I have a Charlotte figure, and I have 2 Beckys. I should get a Bianca, but they didn't have them at Walmart. Okay, so I mean, it was a clean win. I gotta tell you, I like clean wins. I don't like when there's like some sort of weirdness or something stupid. I know they do it sometimes. Well, WrestleMania should have clean wins all the time. All of the other pay-per-views, I can accept a little bit of fudgy, some weird shenanigans, like this bullshit with, Roman Reigns and all that, which we're not going to talk about. But like, I mean, I can, but I'm glad it was a clean win. It's like, look, it's a win. Becky wins. That's it. Ronda wins, and now we're getting into Raw. So Raw last night, we had Nikki ASH. Yeah. Okay, so Nikki ASH. What is ASH?
Almost a superhero.
Oh, right. Okay, I got it. So it's her versus Rhea. Is there anyone on the planet that thought that Nikki is going to beat Rhea Ripley? This is just like, no, this is not happening. Like Rhea Ripley is like,
she's awesome. An Amazon. She's an Amazon.
She's huge. Now she wasn't that huge. I looked her up, and she looked like I don't want to say she Triple H'd or whatever, but like she is not the same person. I don't know. I don't have any photos of her now, but like
she's huge. Like she manhandles. You should when she was fighting Queen Zelina.
Yep. Yeah, Queen Zelina. Yep.
Like it was like she would try and do this. She does a Canadian destroyer finisher, Queen Zelina. They call it Cold Red, and she literally like she can't flip her over, and she literally just picked her up. And I think you saw Nikki ASH do it. She just picks her up into a vertical suplex and drops her.
Right.
Like I like Rhea Ripley's in-ring performance. I love the headbutts, the way she does her drop kicks. Like she sort of like does it like a throwaway drop kick, which is hard to explain. The Riptide, I'm not a huge fan of because it's just a pump handle slam. I've seen it like a million times. It'd be great to have her do a submission hold because I also love submission holds and they're generally cool. But I like her look. I like the nightmare gimmick. At least she has a gimmick. She has a definite character.
Right.
And she's got a definite like ring presence. But Nikki ASH, I mean, she was Nikki Cross for the longest time. She was Alexa Bliss's running mate. They gave her this gimmick because she had a bunch of underdog matches against like Charlotte Flair and that and Rhea Ripley where she inexplicably won. But
I'm checking out Nikki Cross prior. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, so
that was prior to Nikki ASH.
Right. Okay.
But it was a fun moment, but I don't see it going anywhere. It's sort of like the Hurricane.
Not a superhero anymore, then, or what?
I don't know what she is. I think she's now like because she's a heel. I think she's like the Hurricane was a heel for a while. It's almost like that cynical, people try to be superheroes aren't really superheroes sort of things. And I don't know. It was weird. They were a tag team. They were the champs. They lost and then they couldn't regain it. It was obvious to turn Rhea heel because of her look and Nikki because she's a normal superhero. I think they want to swerve by switching it. And Rhea's very popular where Nikki, I don't think really is. But Nikki she can't compete against Rhea Ripley. She can.
Yeah, it's just like not happening.
She's a great mid-card wrestler. Yeah. But if she goes against one of the main eventers, she just gets destroyed. And that's how she got the gimmick in the first place.
Right. Well, again, it was a clean win. I did like where she got caught in the apron.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was neat.
Yeah.
That was very neat. I noted that thinking that was very neat. I didn't realize these shows are all like 3 hours plus. So I'm like sitting up here at 11 p.m. like trying to write notes. It's like
it's hard, man.
And the female stuff, I don't want to talk about the male stuff, but it's not that just that I like the female division better. It's almost where I don't like the male division that much at all.
There's very few people to watch.
The mid card male division is
lackluster.
It's just not the top stuff. Okay, fine, but the mid card stuff is just brutal. Okay, then we got Alexa Bliss and her Lily training. I mean, she's basically Harley Quinn. So I saw Alexa Bliss before she became this Harley Quinn character, and I thought she was supposed to be like, oh, I'm like this big pretty girl or something, and then you guys, or am I mistaking that?
So she started out in NXT as Murphy and this other guy's valet, and she was like this very chipper cheerleader sort. And then when she went to, I don't know if it was before she went to to the main card, like the main roster or not, but she sort of took on the goddess thing, and she was a terrific heel.
Goddess, yes. Yes, I remember this.
She was vicious. She was mean. She was a little bit but she beat everyone. It was like 5 feet of fury, I think is what they called her. She was just awesome.
Yeah. I've seen her like this before the Harley Quinn makeup or whatever.
And then she became a face, and she didn't wrestle as much. She became more like a host and stuff.
Right.
And then she started to get back. And what switched her into this persona is she aligned with the Fiend, Bray Wyatt.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yep.
And she began to take on this persona. Then Bray Wyatt left. And she continued. And then she just got this Lily. She turned on him, and then she just had this Lily like doll, and she sort of took on this Undertaker role where she would hypnotize people in the ring and all sorts of weird stuff would happen, and she'd be covered in black goo, and
she'd have the blood. Papa Shango.
Yeah, it's Papa Shango. It's like she'd have blood coming out of her mouth and eyes. I don't know. It was weird. I kind of.
Do you like that angle? Do you like the supernatural angles that they do with these people?
It worked with Taker. And it kind of worked with Kane. Well, it worked with Kane. And that's it. Like Papa Shango fell flat on his face. Gangrel fell flat on his face. There was that guy, Kevin Steen, I think was supposed to be like that. He fell on his face. There were so many guys who they tried to do a supernatural angle with that just didn't work. I don't see like Alexa Bliss is really good at whatever she does, and she's like a geek in real life, and she cosplays all the time and stuff, and she's got the skeleton gloves, right, like the fingerless gloves and stuff. She's pretty cool. I just don't know if it's going to go anywhere with this. Like when she starts doing the supernatural thing, I don't think today's wrestling audience has that suspension of disbelief where they're like, oh yeah, she can hypnotize people. Like it doesn't happen.
I can't get out of the you were the goddess and now you're this Harley Quinn character, and it's just like this isn't, that's not like, it would be more fun if she wasn't like, don't even like, you could have her be crazy.
Like, just have her demented.
She's just demented, like we would think like Mankind was demented or whatever.
Yeah.
But not that there's actual powers going on.
Right.
The entire her sitting with that psychiatrist is absolutely outrageously dumb. It's very silly. Yeah. I mean, I could watch it just because I think she's like, well, she's very cute in her ways.
Hot,
and I like the Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
I like Harley Quinn. So she's got that Margot Robbie, channeling a bit of that. And and she's attractive, obviously. Yeah. So she's cute and she's being all funny. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but this is like kind of bad. It's like, I can't.
It's not their best stuff.
The psychiatrist, I don't know who that is. I don't know if that was a wrestler or something, or
no.
I swear he is like, I just can't stop laughing. It's just so outrageous. He's like,
I know.
Well, I got the doll here. No, it's not the real doll. I got this from the WWE shop. So I got it from the shop. And
he's just like,
and it's like literally, I got it from the WWE shop. Like, oh, go there and order yours. It's like
buying now.
Well, quick. While supplies last. And you're just like, what is happening? This is so. And she's like, Lily, and I'm like, what? And then like, how can Lily appear every? Like,
it's silly. It's and when you get an actual serious wrestler like Shayna Baszler and they were doing this, it came off so bad.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And then you have like Rhea Ripley, who I follow her on her Twitter and stuff like that, and her Instagram and everything, and she's like working out every day and like, and it's just like, why am I involved in these silly? Like, I'm not saying that they are, but I'm just saying like, if you tried to look at Alexa Bliss, was like, oh look, I'm sitting on a couch and being all cute and funny with this doll, and meanwhile Rhea Ripley's like, working out and friggin', working out 10 hours a day in her gym or whatever. You're like, what is this? Like, what am I? Like, it's two different things.
And the thing is that they took away a lot of the wrestling stuff with Alexa Bliss.
There he is. That's right. The boogeyman couldn't wrestle.
Yeah, but like, I will always remember I'm going to go off on this. A boogeyman. There was this whole thing where Vince McMahon was a judge,
right?
And he was like, Chris Masters was on trial. The guy with the Master Lock guy, he was on trial for some reason, and the boogeyman was like called in as a witness. I have no idea why. He just appeared up out of on the witness stand, and he shatters this clock with his head. He's like, I'm the boogeyman, and I'm gonna get you. And then he just like disappears. And Vince McMahon's like looking over him. Like,
so
what?
Stupid.
And I was dying because I'm like, what is this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds awful.
It was horrible, but it was hilarious. I was just crying with laughter. I could not stop laughing.
Okay, so then who? Bianca Belair
wrestled Carmella.
Carmella. So that's the angle where she's so pretty that she doesn't want to ruin her face. Now, I think, is it Michael Cole who's like in love with her or whatever?
No,
right?
Corey Graves.
Oh, sorry, it's Corey Graves
is engaged to marry her in real life.
Oh, so is that part of the angle? Like, do we know that?
They acknowledge it, that they are together. Okay. The thing is that Corey Graves left his wife for her, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so then, like, I think it was he saying that, like, I can't remember, I think it was him who was saying, it's like, oh, if she was so pretty, if I was that pretty, I'd walk around in like a Michelin Man outfit. So
yeah.
I don't get.
Yeah, he said that. Corey Graves is sometimes good and sometimes he's really annoying. He goes a bit too far with you don't really have. Yeah. One
of the funniest things of all time is
Shockmaster fell.
I've tried to watch her without laughing.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
I can't do it. I just tried about a week ago too. It's funny that Sean brings it up, and I didn't talk to Sean. I can't do it.
No,
I can't do it. I've watched it. I'm watching it off of YouTube on my 65 inch 4K and you can't just watch him breaking through. You need to watch the whole segment. You want to know who that partner is? He's gonna shock.
And that helmet rolls off.
It's like boom, boom, boom. And he crawls.
That's the greatest thing ever.
And Sid Vicious is trying to pretend like this is the most crazy thing. He's like, like what's going on? And you're like, this is awful.
It was terrible, man.
Anyway. So yeah, Bianca fought Carmella. Bianca is obviously way better.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, and it was a clean win, and that's fine. Like, what is Carmella's angle? Like, what are they doing with that character?
Well, they're doing the thing that she's the most beautiful woman.
Right.
She's a mid-carder. Occasionally they promote her up. She was champ for a while. She's very athletic. She's got a great finisher. Where she basically like wraps the opponent's head between her knees and then does like, it's hard to explain, but she grabs her foot and she holds it like this with the person's head between her knees and stuff.
Oh, cool.
It's very acrobatic. So she's got some good stuff, but again, she was like the Princess of Long Island for a while. She again started out as a valet. She was a face for most of it, and then they decided to make her a heel. She came back and she had this guy Reggie as her sommelier, and she was like supposed to be sophisticated in that, and then that got dropped because she was fighting Sasha Banks in that, and you're like, Sasha Banks is going to beat her. Like, Carmella's just not. She's a mid-carder. She's a very talented mid-carder, but she hasn't broken through that ceiling for very long.
Okay. So really the big thing then was Ronda coming out at they saved it for the very end. Now this shows like look how big the women's division has come to where they're ending it off. Like now it's like, oh, we're waiting. And I remember thinking when it started, I'm like, it's either going to be starting with Ronda, and if it doesn't start with Ronda, it'll end with Ronda because that's how big it is, right?
Yeah.
You want to get people to tune in, so that's your first thing, and they brought in the men, and then you want them to stay to the end. So wow, Ronda staying to the end. So her thing at the end was great. She doesn't talk a lot. She came in, did her thing. First of all, I love Becky's outfits, which are just like super outrageous now.
Yeah.
Like why? So she's I guess she's supposed to be a heel now, right?
She's a heel. Yeah.
Even though she's not, she's like transcended babyface heel. She's just awesome. But she came in with this. I like heel Becky's costumes better
than face Becky's.
Than face Becky. Than face Becky. But like, yeah, so she comes in and she's like talking and all that. It's super funny.
The
Hey,
government
Ron,
name is
Indiana Jones is tomorrow.
Hey,
today is the women of wrestling. Steve and I are not women or wrestlers, but yet we feel compelled to talk about it. Indiana Jones in the WWE. So yeah, and then she came in, and it's like, so it was a 2-part thing. So Ronda came in, did her little spiel. Becky comes in, who are you gonna pick, and all that. That entire Rebecca and all that. That's super funny. So who do you think Ronda's gonna pick as your prediction for this Friday?
It's going to be Becky.
Yeah.
Because Lita's fighting her at the Rumble, and they wouldn't bother with having a WrestleMania match. They've already teased Lita versus Charlotte prior to Rumble. And I just feel like I think there's more money to be made in Becky versus Ronda. Like Charlotte's in that echelon now where she rarely loses.
Charlotte's awesome, man.
And I think Becky, you need to get the title off her at some point soon because she has had it for so long. Whereas I don't think you're going to take the title off Charlotte anytime soon. Like there's certain performers that need a title, and there's certain performers that don't need a title. And Charlotte Flair needs a title. You need people chasing Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
You don't need anyone chasing Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch can do whatever she wants, and it will sell.
Yeah.
I think
that's a good point. You got to look at it from the business point too, where it's like, yeah, having people going against Charlotte is good. Because it's like Charlotte's got the Ric Flair angle.
Yeah.
She's got the look.
Yeah.
She looks like a heel champion who just can't be beat, and she's good, and she will win. She can win.
Yeah.
It's not like one of these people who has to cheat all the time or whatever. It's like she legit wins. She's a superstar. She's the one that people are chasing, as you said. Becky is just so awesome. It doesn't matter. Like she doesn't need to have the belt. Doesn't add anything. It's just like, I'm the belt. Okay. She's like, maybe I'll be Becky 2 belts or whatever.
Well, she already was, I think.
Yeah. She's like, maybe I'll be Becky 2 belts again or whatever.
Yeah. It's just like that. Like that's what I think.
Yeah. So I'm thinking. I think so too. Now after that, so Ronda leaves, and then Lita comes in and challenges Becky. So the next pay-per-view is the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Is that this month now?
Yeah.
Yeah, February. Oh shit. Is that in February? Yeah, that's in February. We're in February. Today's the 1st, yes. So that's this month. So we'll see. I mean, Lita versus Becky. Becky's going to win that, obviously.
Yeah.
Because they need to have Ronda beat Becky
at
Mania. So, I mean, this is one of the problems with wrestling and the scripting of wrestling is that you're starting to see where the script is going, and you're like, this has to happen. It's no different than in a film. You're watching a film, you're like, okay, this is the point where Batman's going to fail at something.
Yeah.
Because they need to raise the stakes for the final act. Like this is where the Riddler and Two-Face are going to kidnap Chase, and then Batman's his shit is destroyed, and he's only got the one Batwing left or something. And you know what I mean? Like this is where. So this Elimination Chamber. Thanks. Okay, so 19. Thank you, Double C. So that's the 19th. So we'll definitely
February 19th. Okay.
So now we're in this. This is where we're at. Where Lita, like Becky, needs to be at the pay-per-view, so she needs somebody to fight. So that'll be Lita. She'll defeat Lita. Ronda will defeat Becky. There's a very good chance.
Yeah.
You're talking about Batman? Oh, no. Just as an analogy. So this is where we're at. So I can already foresee this playing out. Now, I don't know what's going on with Charlotte and her stuff. So we're going to watch. So SmackDown's Friday. We will meet back on let's do Tuesday again, because I like this time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll meet back on Tuesday, and that way we can talk about SmackDown and Raw. Right. We'll have two things to talk about. So we always have two things to talk about. So then are you predicting that Lita's going to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has to. You need.
Yeah.
Again, you're not going to bring in Ronda Rousey and not put a belt on her. It's the same as Brock Lesnar. How long did, unfortunately, Roman Reigns got COVID. Right. Brock was meant to beat him 100%. Brock won again, the 6-man, whatever, 6-way dance or whatever, or 5-way dance. It was Owens, Rollins, Lashley, and Big E, and they added in Brock. Brock won. Then he dropped it to Lashley because he's going after Reigns, but he's going to beat Reigns. And it's you don't bring in Ronda Rousey without putting a belt on her. You don't. There's no point.
To be one of the things to get her back in. And I remember seeing, I think it was on TMZ where they're talking, they caught up with Becky or something, and they said, and Becky was like, oh, if you come back, or she was giving advice about Ronda coming back or something. I'm like, really? This is now, again, this is one of these things where it's the outside world. There's just so much social media out there.
Mm-hmm.
That you just can't help but start to think, oh yeah, maybe Ronda is coming back, right? It's not like in the old days where we'd be. I remember I was sitting there and somebody would come out, you're like, holy shit, I can't believe it. And, I mean, obviously, if you were following wrestling and following all the divisions and following the newspapers and the magazines, but I was only following WWF stuff. I didn't go outside WWF stuff, so I would be surprised a lot, right? Now, my buddy Sean, not Autobot Sean, but my other buddy Sean, he would be he was in the know. So I'd go to his place, we'd watch the pay-per-views together, and he'd be like, oh yeah, this is happening. You know what I mean? He'll be like, yeah, this, because he knew, right? Even back then. So unless Lita wins, drops the title on Raw to Becky versus, look, it could happen. I'm thinking, well, I don't know. Lita has come back. This is going to be, she wants to do one more run. Is that what's basically happening?
Yeah.
She wants to do one more. She looked pretty good. I thought she looked pretty good. I don't know how old Lita is, but
it's like Edge, where Edge came back. He fought a bunch of times. He didn't win the belts. He won a couple of times. He didn't win. I don't think why do you need to give Lita the belt? That's the only thing I would say is Lita doesn't need to win the belt. Lita is here to have a bunch of high-profile matches and make money. And what we forget about this, and I've learned this over the years, is that they're going to go with what they think will make the most money. So if they think the most money will be made by Lita fighting Charlotte Flair, that's cool. But if you become champion, and there's exceptions to this, right? But generally, if you become champion, the expectation is you're going to have a full-time schedule. A lot of these guys don't want to come back and do a full-time schedule.
Oh, right. There's that.
So you got two choices. You either come back and do a full-time schedule, or you defend like Brock Lesnar has been, where you showing up and defending is an event. Because there was a lot of time where he wasn't defending, but when he did, it was a big event, right? Ronda Rousey to me could be an event. She could come back full time, or she could be an event. She could go either way.
Right.
Because Ronda Rousey now has this aura about her. Her first run, she was only beaten in that triple threat. She mentioned that. That's the only match I ever lost.
Yeah.
Or I think Becky mentioned it or something. So you could do it either way with her, but Lita's not an event.
Right.
Lita isn't at that point where she's an event.
Yeah, so possibility, we'll say this and then we're going to wrap it up. Possibilities are Lita, Becky, the match goes where Becky maybe does something a little fishy to beat Lita so that Lita keeps some of her cred.
Right.
She didn't lose too badly. Or maybe it's a DQ or something like that, right? There'll be some weirdness to it,
mm-hmm.
and it won't look like Lita got beat. Or it could be one of these matches where Lita's giving it her all, and Becky just wins because Becky's younger, and she gets respect for her, but it's sorry, you still lost. Lita looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I don't know how old she is. Her face looked okay. I mean, Ivory came back for that 1 second to be funny, and
she was the best thing in that whole thing.
Oh, that was so funny. I know.
She was still talking on the way out. Like she was like, as she was being like thrown out of the ring, she was still talking. Like Ivory was the best.
I know. She's like, "What are you doing?" She gets kicked out. It's like, "No, you can't do that to me." I'm like, "What is happening? Why are you still talking? Like you're done." But no, that was funny. So yeah, that I'm thinking, it could be one of those two possibilities. Yep. I don't see Becky losing
no.
for sure on Elimination Chamber. But no. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. And then so SmackDown is this Friday. We'll reconvene on Tuesday, 1 week from today, to talk about SmackDown and Raw. The good thing about keeping it just to the women's thing is that the women need to be pushed more, in my opinion, but also it makes this easier to break down, right? Because I don't want these streams to be hours and hours like my chill ones and stuff. I want this to just be more like we're talking about the specific things that we need to talk about, and then we're going to move on. Okay, well, thanks to Double C, Arkham, Sean, Chillmonger. Who else came in? Who else popped in here? Did I get everybody? Ron, thank you, dude. Tomorrow, Steve and myself, and also Sean and Marc is coming back in to talk about Indiana Jones. It's going to be the Temple of Doom versus Raiders of the Lost Ark on the weekly versus, and then we're going to be back. I think we're going to be back Saturday. I did schedule a stream that may or may not happen depending on how tired we are after we're having a D&D session on Saturday. I mean, I could probably do it. Maybe we'll just do it a shorter session. Just, quickly go through what we watched and then that's it. But yeah, if not, definitely tomorrow, Indiana Jones, and then definitely a week from today to talk more SmackDown and Raw for the weekly Women of World Wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I guess that hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey friends, you've just been listening to J-Man, and he is the smartest person who ever lived. So make sure you like and subscribe.